How are you guys?
Pretty good. How about you?
We're doing excellent.
Really well, thank you.
The first question that I have is something you guys get asked all the time. It's just for my audience, for those who don't know. How did you guys meet?
We went to college together.
So then at what point were you like, you're the one that I want to work with? I want to like, you know.
At first sight.
At first sight, really.
We went to engineering college together, right? And then we were taking part in all the cultural activities and, you know, quizzes and movie quizzes and dumb charades and stuff like that. We were a good team there. Like everybody from our home state of Andhra Pradesh, we love movies. So I think everybody, as soon as they, mature, they think, okay, I'm going to make a movie. I think that's what everybody does in our state, and we actually followed through with that.
For Family Man, what's it like working with a giant egomaniac like Manoj Bajpayee?
You felt he was egomaniac, is it?
No. I'm just kidding. No, I talk to him on text message sometimes. He's super nice.
Manoj is very chilled out. It was just one conversation where we said, this is the idea. And we didn't give him a Bible or a script. We just said this is the story, this is the concept. And within 15 minutes it was on. And the rest of the night we just drank and talked other stuff. So
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's cool.
We spent like 3 hours with him, chilling and whatever, discussing all kinds of stuff. But only the first 20 minutes of it was the pitch, and he agreed, and it was over.
That's cool. You guys feel like you're at the point now where you have the freedom to tell pretty much any story you want?
We've come a long way, I think. We started off as indie filmmakers. We were in the US for a while. I was in the Midwest. And DK was in Texas mostly, and
Austin.
Okay.
I love Austin. I thought about moving there so many times.
So we used to meet in for weekends to film stuff. Mm-hmm. So we completely self-taught, didn't have access to film school, or we were working already by then. So we thought the only way to learn filmmaking is to actually make your own stuff. So we're also techie guys. So we had our gear. So that's how we started. So anyway, when we came to India, it took us a while to where we are. And now I feel there's a lot of excitement.
It's been almost 10 years, right? We've been here making Hindi films for almost 10 years now. Yeah. Our first film we made in 2008, released in 2009. So it's roughly 10 plus years now.
Was it weird, like coming from the States to then try and break into the film industry in India? Did you ever feel like outsiders, or were you welcomed?
It's a big industry, and we didn't know anybody at all. We would just be like audience, right? I would come here and say, pick the biggest stars' names and say, I want to work with him, and nobody knew anybody. So we were as outside as we could get. Zero connection, and the language barrier, because we don't speak Hindi. Now we do a bit, but so it was bizarre for people to say, who are you again? Who did you work with? Where are you from? Do you speak the language? How come you want to make films? So it's the furthest you can be in trying to get into this.
Yeah.
So the first film took us a few years, almost 4 or 5 years to get it made.
Yeah.
But
is that Flavors?
Yeah, no, 99.
99. After we made Flavors in the US, it took almost 4 or 5 years for us to actually make a first Hindi film. Having made a film in the US, it still took us 5 years.
So you started out with Flavors, right? Where it kind of has that, I guess it would be the NRI experience, which strangely I kind of relate to, because as someone who is mixed and I grew up in different countries and whatnot, I'm always just I feel like I'm a fish out of water at times and people don't understand my culture and whatnot. Coming from that, where you're kind of having that experience, how important is it to kind of represent that in your work currently? Or is it just something that you did and you're like, okay, we did that, and then moving on?
Yeah, Flavors was a part-time film. That's what we used to call it, because it was like a part-time film where you put your job on hold. We're not quitting our day jobs. So you're figuring out stuff, and all your friends have put in money, and so you kind of make it that way. And those days it was hard to find many Indian actors those days. Now I see shows full of them. So those days, and we didn't know, we were far from LA, we were in the East Coast. So trying to get people.
Midwest actually.
Yeah. So,
not even East Coast.
It was really pulling favors, shooting in people's houses. And it was a very part-time film. And we didn't think it was a career thing at that point, at least. Till we made it, and then we traveled with it around the world for various festivals. Then you kind of thinking about this. of course, you think back about your parents and you go like, oh my God, what are you going to do? You did masters and now you are having a great job and a lot of money, and you're going to quit all that and do what? So it was a...
Even my mother kept thinking that it's just a hobby that I'm going to get over with once the film is done and get back to my actual job as an engineer. Yeah, she only really believed that filmmaking could be a career once she saw me on TV. That's like, oh, you're on TV, so now you made it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have a question about that I was going to ask later on. Did you guys have any moments of incredible doubt or worry as you went through all of your money without work to make flavors? And how did you persevere? How did you guys sustain yourselves after the film was finished? Because it's not like you get a check for being full-time directors once your movie's done. Like, what was that whole process like? Just dealing with it emotionally, mentally, and how did you guys keep going after the movie was done?
Right, see, when Flavors was done, right, we were still working as software engineers, right? And so we both took a sabbatical from our work, poured all the money we had into the movie. We made the film. Now that you made a film, I mean, of course, it's a process to actually finish it and release it and all that. So we went back to our day jobs, which was engineering. So we were working and kind of editing in the nights, editing at nights and over the weekends and finishing the film. Then once the film was finished, we were trying to get it released. So it was a bit of a journey, but we still had our day jobs. So once the film released, we kind of, within a few months, we had our next script ready, which was a Hindi film that we made, first Hindi film called 99. We kind of knew by then that we want to come to India and make a Hindi film and not another NRI film. So when we came to India with the script is when we realized that, okay, it's going to take a while and you need a lot of money to survive in Mumbai. It's not a cheap city at all. Right. So after a few months here, we went back to the States. We just stopped thinking about movies, worked for 2 years in software as consultants. So when you work as consultants, you don't have any kind of job security, you don't have any kind of benefits, but you make money by the hour. So it's like you're literally making money only. And the idea was you work for 2 years, collect all that money, and then quit the job and go back to India and try to make the film. So we kind of did that. So it took us 2 years of working, then back to India, and 2 years of surviving on that money while you're trying to get the film made.
Can I ask how much money you guys saved up?
We were making a lot of money as software consultants.
We finished our money by 2 years. I don't know the number, but the rents were pretty high here, like almost $1,000 per month. So you're finishing up by the month, right? So it was more than 2 years. I think two and a half years. So we were done. But the funny story is that we didn't make money for the first 2 films, right? Like 3 films.
First 3 films, we didn't really make money. So we were still living on our savings for years after we made our first film as well. So
whatever little money we get from the film, it was going back on the rent and stuff. So we were in fact sharing a small car, borrowed a car from our friend Sita, and we were using that for like 3-4 years. And then the first time we saved after Shor in the City is what we got a little chunk of money. That was like, I don't know, what's 5 lakhs? $10,000 is what we finally got. We went and bought a used car together. So I said, that was our first purchase.
Okay, yeah. No, and this is after we were in the US, like driving nice, good cars.
ACHARA Integra.
Yeah, I had like a nice sports car and all that. And you're back to this 5 years later. So it's,
The first question I was going to ask you guys earlier was, with the exception of Aaron Sorkin, it seems like writing, one of the most crucial aspects of filmmaking, is often thankless and overlooked. Yet it's really difficult and requires a lot more discipline than other areas of filmmaking. When you guys are writing, what's the actual process? How are responsibilities distributed? Do you guys take turns deciding who gets on the laptop? Like, how does it work?
So the writing is one thing that we are so thankful that we spent a lot of time on, especially in these days, and where everybody's appreciating our work and it's unique, and we stuck to our unique ideas and unique stories. There was a lot of pushback on every single movie where you're supposed to make a packaged product or like a product or something you'd expect. You don't want a new film out there because it's a lot of resistance usually. The idea was to spend a lot of time writing. So we written a lot, and then thanks to all the downtime that you have to wait for actors' dates and or just somebody producing our film, we wrote more. So it became part of our daily routine, I guess. Every time I go, even on a holiday, I write for the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day is the holiday. So it's fun. I made it a point to write almost every day, And now it's a second nature or something I look forward to. I miss writing if I don't write for a few days. Fellow filmmakers, when they're looking for scripts and they ask us, hey, you have, give me one, man, come on, and all that. So I realized that the one thing we had was more written material that we spent all these days on. So that's something we're very glad about.
Yeah, it's especially in a country like India, right? Unlike in America, where there's a huge pool of great talented writers. In India, there's very few writers who just write for the simple reason that writers don't get paid well. So every writer is at some point thinking, you know what, I'm going to write for a living now, and at the first opportunity, I'm going to start directing my film. You know what I mean? That's how people think, because there's not much money to be made. At least it used to be that way. The fact that we write for ourselves is also, I think, adding to this whatever different vision that we bring to the film. It starts in the writing itself. We're not looking for scripts, we're not scouting for scripts, we're not picking a script and trying to put our vision in it. We're writing it, we're creating it from the scratch.
So for us, when we write, the writing process is that we are writing to direct. So we're writing knowing that this is what we're going to direct, and so we write it well. Like you can, when you read it, you understand the humor, you understand the edits also quite a bit, I think. So we are writing it very visually to what we're going to shoot.
I mean, we do write a script that other people are going to, like, I mean, we've been writing scripts, for example, for our shows for Amazon, right? So somebody sitting in LA is also reading the script and understanding the story and greenlighting the project. So yes, I mean, that happens. But somewhere there, that sense of humor that goes into the script is, I think, tailor-made for us as well.
But what is the actual process for you guys developing a story together and writing a story? Like, how do you go about distributing responsibilities with crafting a story together?
See, usually there is a concept that comes, right? I mean, an example would be that, hey, how about a concept like this, an idea that comes in a shower or something, where you say that these guys are going to go out to party, as banal as that, as simple as that, except they wake up and the whole place is full of zombies. And you're like, what? So we fight it out first and saying, is that even that's a ridiculous idea? What does it make sense? And what are we trying to say? So that trying to say is that it was a take on drugs in a way that...
Those are the things that kind of, I think lend meaning to it, right? Otherwise you have a story, but now you also need a foundation. You need some kind of an overarching concept thing. Sure, 3 guys go to party and they face zombies. Okay, you're making a zombie film, but is there something more than that? So you start getting into that, and that's
same thing with Stree is that, you have a small town, its setting is great, it's a cute little town and everything, and there is a legend, an urban legend going on. Till then it's fun, it's nice, it's there, but then she's going only after men, and so the men are afraid for once. And so it's a role reversal. So once we hit on that jackpot of an idea that it's a role reversal, gender reversal idea, then it was something else. Till then it was just a funny, trivial film, and then there was a point to it. So that's when we realized, okay, now we want to write it. So what we do at that point is we sit and brainstorm, and there are a bunch of ideas in my head, a bunch of ideas in his head. So we put them together like a structure. We usually use up all the walls. I think our walls are clean today.
Use up all the walls, put up all the, the entire story flow. So we spend a lot of time in getting the story flow, story beats, structure, everything, the entire writing process going. Then at the end of it, once we have an approximate story, like a skeleton story flow, we start fleshing it out and writing what we call, and also I think it's called the same thing in the industry as well, what we call as a treatment or a step outline. So once the treatment is done with all the scenes, everything filled in as much detail as we already know, and the rest, can come later, but as much as detail as we already know, we fill it up. So for a 2-hour film, we probably have like a 50-60 page treatment, and then what we do, we decide we have to write the screenplay for it. I think that's where what we do is we pick sequences, like, okay, I'm going to write from here to here, you write from here to here. So then I start writing this, he start writing that, and once we finish that part, we swap. So then I go over what he wrote, he goes over right, and at the end of it, it's like one kind of a merged draft. So we do that for each chunk of the film, and at some point we have an entire script that both of us have written, and you can't really tell who wrote what anymore.
That's cool, though. That is super cool that you guys have that kind of dynamic, because it sounds like your dynamic with writing is exactly the same as it is with directing, which I think is super neat, because you don't hear about these kinds of relationships very often. It sounds very rare.
Yeah, because it seems like, it's hard enough to kind of get your own vision done, and then when you have to work with someone else, I imagine that there must be some sort of like headbutting or conflict going on. Like, does that ever happen with you guys? Do you ever have like really bad arguments, and like how do you resolve that?
Not in public, but yeah, in private it happens.
It's like rock, paper, scissors. I win. I get to do my story.
Yeah, there's nothing like two directors being on set and fighting with each other. I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen. So you don't let that happen.
Usually, also very tiny specifics as to why should we be shooting this when we be shooting that. That kind of things. Really more logistical fights.
Yeah, or like we're running late. Do you really need the shot now? We're running late. It's like no, I really need the shot now. That's the biggest fight, I think. It's like, we can do without the shot. No, I need it. It's that usually.
It seems like one of your big objectives is each time you make a film that it's totally different from the last film. You guys aren't really into the idea of sequels, is what I gathered. You seem to make an exception for seasons when it comes to TV shows.
Right.
Now, if you were to do a Marvel film and they wanted you to come back and do sequels to that Marvel film, would you treat it like seasons? Or would you be like, no, we did that one Marvel movie, we're moving on?
If we had the choice, that's what I would do at least.
Yeah.
We would just move on and do something else.
Yeah.
What I would
This is literally the first time in life where we are following up something with the same thing, right? Family Man, season 1, following up. It's literally the first time we're doing it. And otherwise, every single time, even the genres of the movies are not matched. As in, once we did one kind of a film, 99, we followed it with the Shor in the City, followed up with the zombie film. So every time we're trying to do something else, rather than say, hey, the zombie film worked out well, let's do another similar film or action film. It just kept mixing it up.
I think it's the fear of becoming more of a business versus actually creating a film. I think it goes back to where we started too, that we left a really cushy job and doing this. And we're doing this for a reason. And why are we doing it? So that we keep questioning that, I guess. And so idea is to just, we get so many offers to do a similar kind of film. It's easy to turn it down because you know it already. When you hear it and this is what's going on, I said, I've done that already. So I want to do something else.
So no Indian Panther trilogy. I got it. Okay.
We're not into franchise films, that's per se. Forget Marvel. I'm just saying in general, whenever there is a movie out there that says part 3, it doesn't excite me to go and watch it. I'd rather go and watch a film by, that's made again.
Last summer, I think it just got to me that there are no human heroes anymore in films. It's always some kind of a mutant or some kind of a superhero. Whatever happened to Tom Cruise hanging from a building, right?
He's still doing it.
He's the only person who's doing it, right? And even the Mission Impossible films that's right now are becoming like the superhero films, like almost incredible, the kind of stunts, right? I almost miss Die Hard. How about that? I miss Die Hard or Lethal Weapon.
Even they had part 3, part 4.
That's okay. I don't mean the franchise, but I'm saying a human being who can actually get hurt and dies when he gets shot. There's no time machine to go back and come back alive, So I was kind of missing that. I was kind of missing a human being.
For me, I'm missing like movies like Forrest Gump, Shawshank, or Get Shorty, for that matter. I'm missing those, and I'm finding them again in series, in shows. Which is awesome that we're getting to see all kinds of filmmaking.
I think the only human beings you see on shows now, on screen now are in the series, right? The films are all like superheroes, or humans who are superheroes.
You guys have this list of like 40 films on Film Companion that you recommended people watch. This is for both of you guys. Like, is there any film on there that you would love to remake?
Oh, most of them, I think.
Oh wow!
That's why I like them. That's why we like both. We would have loved to make those films. It's not remake them.
Not remake them now, if that's not what you mean. Like, love to have made them, yes, sure. But also, most of the films on that list, on the Film Companion list that you're talking about, picked them because they were kind of influential in our formative years. They may not even be the greatest film by that filmmaker also, or like classic by anybody else's definition, but it almost felt like it taught us a lot. Like the first film by Doug Liman taught us something. The first film by Kevin Smith taught us something, right? So that way, because they are working against like a lot of restrictions, they don't have money. He has only $300,000 in the bank, and he puts all of it and makes a movie in Hollywood, right? The Swingers by Doug Liman. So these are the lessons we took from that. So in a way, those are not the best films by those filmmakers. Those are not the greatest films, but there is something about those films that made them who they are now.
How much did Swingers influence the way you guys did flavors?
Swingers, the humor was great.
Right.
Basically, I think lots of humor.
The conversational humor and how people are. And more than that, there was also a production aspect to it when you're sitting there thinking, oh, I have so many thousands of dollars in the bank. What are you going to do, right? I mean, you either spend the money and make a film, or you're going to go stand in line in Hollywood and hope somebody, or Bollywood, and hope somebody produces your film, right? So what these guys thought, like even Kevin Smith or Robert Rodriguez, all these people.
Swingers especially, they had 3 huge guys that came out of it. I mean, we didn't know them. I mean, we saw them for the first time when we were watching Swingers. And then so you get inspiration out of it. At the same time, for me, I remember the hilarious phone sequence.
Yeah, the answering machine sequence, right? That it goes on and on and on.
So
there's a certain humor to it that.
So I think the humor is honed by things like that. Is what I take away for a very long time.
You're clearly influenced by a lot of like international movies and stories, right? Did you ever think like, oh, well, since we're in America, why don't we just try and, make it in America? Why was it important for you to go back and do your stories in India?
That's where we came from. So that's where we were born and brought up, and that's where the initial culture is from. And for all our, growing up years and college. So you're still thinking of all the visuals, the scenes, the settings, the things that have happened to you back home. So the idea is to go back and use the milieu, the texture to make those films. So I think the idea was always that. It wasn't like, let me make a Hindi film. It was more about making a film set back home. It's like homecoming. You want to go back home and make it,
Also we grew up watching Indian cinema, right? So like there's some 25 years of Indian cinema in us before we are in America, and watching all these great films, and especially the American independent films. I think they were the biggest influence on us, like all this, first films of all these people that we spoke about at that time. And so you're looking at this, juxtaposed with that, and you're thinking there's something unique to be made out of that. I mean, yeah, in an alternate universe, we could have made an American independent film in America and done something there in a parallel world, but we kept thinking we should make a film in India. But we were not learning from filmmaking from watching Indian films at that time. We were learning filmmaking from watching American independent films at that time. So,
like Flavors was our attempt about making a film in America, but about again going back home in terms of it's our experiences as NRIs that you make it. So there was always an Indian angle attached to it.
Well, I mean, and that's so interesting to me anyway, because I find that is something that is often lacking in cinema here in the States, or even in the UK or whatever. But there's so many people that relate to it, so I still feel like it's valid and important to share those stories.
When Nolan made Interstellar, he was watching 2001: Space Odyssey a lot, and he was having his cast watch 2001: Space Odyssey a lot. Do you guys do anything similar? Because I know you have a lot of influences. Is there anything similar you do at all?
No,
I don't have a routine. We don't have anything that way.
Not like that, but in the past, though, we have asked our actors to watch. We've had all these favorite Mexican Spanish films, especially the Iñárritu films and Alfonso Cuarón films, that we have asked our actors in the past to watch. And the biggest thing for me, what I like about these films, is how natural the acting is. How people don't look like they're acting, especially the Spanish language, the way it flows. It doesn't look like they're acting. It looks like they're just, the words are just coming out. It looks like it's real life. So that's my biggest takeaway. So I told people to watch that to say, can we do something like that? Can you be so natural that it doesn't look like you're acting? That was it. But that was before Manoj Bajpayee happened. So for him, for him, he's like, okay, Manoj, let's shoot.
It's also it was very dialogue driven when we started out in India. So everything was very dialogue driven, and it's the dialogues in the script that you need to say it out. It felt like that, So we were trying to break it a bit. So I just want to get away from the scripted feeling of dialogues. I guess.
I like going from punchlines to punchlines and scripting.
Right.
So trying to break that, give them more freedom to express and add to it.
I've heard this phrase said a few times saying, oh, this kind of stuff is okay in films, kind of a logic, right? It's okay to say this kind of stuff in films, even though you would never say it in real life, kind of a thing. So that's where I think, not just us, I think this whole crop of filmmakers now in the last 10 years, I would say, have kind of embraced this, where the way people speak in films is closer to how people speak in real life. But I don't think that was the case 15 years ago, probably.
You guys are big fans of the movie Memento. At least it was in your list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Gaijini?
Yeah. Well, I saw the Tamil version long back, and and I realized I've seen it before.
Except this one was backwards.
You're like, wait, it's tattooed on my body?
Not backwards.
After doing my research, I saw that you guys seem to be championing new talent with your D2R Indie initiative. So what can a young filmmaker do to impress you or to stand out from the crowd?
Good question, because we get a lot of scripts and a lot of requests to produce their films. I think it's just that one idea. If they talk to me or send a 2-minute thing and that's interesting and exciting or unique or something about it, that's all it is for me to be very interested immediately. So most of the time, instead of, I just want to hear that little idea and say, what are you trying to do with it? Like there's a small film that's coming up that we just produced, and it's not even a high concept. I mean, it's not like a high concept, but the execution of it, when I heard how they were going to do it, I said, this is great, because they were going to go raw. They were going to go with no actors, no known actors, very real people, shoot it very as if it's just in a village, by real people. We said that's the interesting part about it. It wasn't the story. So sometimes it's a story that, when you hear that 2 lines, that's all it takes, I think.
So far the way it has been is whatever we've come out with this D2R Indie thing is first-time filmmakers who have this out-of-the-box concept that probably has no commercial value. I think that's where we start off saying, okay, let's at least support this, see what can happen. It's not going to be a lot of money that's going to be spent on it, but you'll probably not recover whatever you spend. That was the idea to kind of start off. And then if it turns out well, then we're all proud that it turned out so well. And everybody's...
Why are you creating more competition for yourselves with this initiative?
It's a big world. It's a very big world. I think everybody can have a piece of the pie.
Yeah. We can only make so many films, man. It's like...
So yeah, exactly. We can make only so many films, but when we're part of so many other films, you feel like you've made many more. You're part of, in a different way, you're part of another good film. So it's still our films.
Right. No, I agree. I think that's a great concept.
Well, you guys have done so many different genres now, and you say that you keep wanting to challenge yourself and keep changing and keep growing. So like, what do you want to do next? Even in an imaginary world, you were like, I've done a zombie film, I did like a ghost film, I've done this like political thriller, I've done rom-com or whatever. Like, so is there another genre that you're like, yeah, we want to put our spin on this?
I mean, actually, every possible genre there is, with a little twist to it, is what we're trying to do. But for example, our next production that what we're producing, Rahi, another director, brilliant director, he's directing it, is a series that's extremely, it's actually set in prehistoric times or maybe semi-historic times. So I'm just saying it's something exciting world, that you would now go and do that. Oh, that's awesome. So, you found a spin on it, and we are part of a project like that.
It's kind of like Game of Thrones, but it's a comedy. So
okay,
it's a satire.
I'm sold.
It's a satirical. I mean, there is a deeper thought in it, but it's a satirical, funny film, but it's set in a period. It's the period of Game of Thrones and India, of course, medieval India, and a lot of things are funny about it.
So Sintel, who did the reaction to Family Man with me, he gave me some questions to ask you guys. There's just a few here. With regards to Family Man, he said, this show is such a beautiful and well-crafted masterpiece. I can't applaud you enough on how impressed I am with the project. There's a sizable mix of drama, comedy, action, and suspense, all wrapped around a political thriller. How in the world were you guys able to juggle all these different tones without compromising the integrity of the show overall?
Well, you put it that way. Yeah, it is a lot of things to juggle.
Yeah.
That's very nice of him. I always feel that whenever I see a film like a thriller, or some a spy show or anything like that, always feel that there is another angle that hasn't been explored, right? So when you see Homeland or when you see Blacklist or or any of these, there is a certain tone to it. So I think it makes us wonder sometimes, what if the tone wasn't exactly that for any of that shows, like a horror film. Horror films are the easiest ones where this imagination would go. You're watching a very scary film, and then you see that it can actually have you have that little thought that what if it's actually here he's freaking out and it's funny to me, so or something else about it. So idea is to try and take a genre. I think we get pulled into a genre film a little more, or at least if there is a subject to be made and if it has a genre veneer to it, it is more palatable, it's more exciting. And now it gives us flexibility to actually juggle genres in this. In Family Man, a lot of people said that the humor is going to screw you up, is that it doesn't make sense, or the family angle, cut the family angle out. Because usually you've never seen movies or series where you could spend subplots on the wife and the kid and the other kid and the whole deal, and so just stick to the plot because you're just going all over. But the series gave us the flexibility to say that why not? Isn't that why we have this long running storyline that we can do a lot more things with it?
Yeah, you basically go to all facets of the protagonist's journey. Yes, he's trying to stop a ticking time bomb and he's fighting terrorism, but he still has a wife and kids at home. So you get to do that. But yes, the balancing act is a tough one. I think even in our even from a second film, Shor in the City, we've done a little bit of this. I mean, this one of the things that I've heard told back to me at some point is there are scenes in Shor in the City where people are laughing at something that's happening, and 5 seconds later they're like, oh my god, what's going to happen, kind of a thing that happens. There are some sequences like that. It started coming there, and I think we've kind of, over all these films that we've been making, we're kind of becoming better at that, wherein we can say something funny and smoothly transition into something that's a little more serious, and without taking away from the seriousness of it.
So sometimes I think when you don't see it and actually hear things like that, it feels like that's too much, or that it won't work, or you just it's gonna be jarring, and is it so you get questioned a lot. But lately it's fine. It's just that it's almost like now we have to ask ourselves, is it too much sometimes if we go to crazy areas. With the Family Man, what worked out very well for us is when we defined it in one line to ourselves that he's a spy, but it's a government job. And so that made it all. Like a government job in India, you have so many facets to it, right? So you don't have money, you're looking for home loan, you're looking for apartment, you're going in trains, you're going eating roadside food, and so suddenly you have a whole thing that is just a government job at the end of it.
It's so funny that people were against the idea of seeing the family aspect of this guy's life, because that's actually what appealed to me.
Yeah, that was like my favorite part when I was watching the show. I was like, yeah, I mean, all the intrigue and all that drama was cool, but all the stuff that was going on with his kids and his wife, I was like, oh, this is really great, because you never see that when you watch a spy show.
This is a question for me that just popped into my head. How much research did you guys do in writing that show?
For Family Man, we did quite a bit of research, right? I mean, we did speak to a few people, like ex-intelligence people, like ex-RAW people.
Basically, three of us wrote it. Suman is our third partner. I think he's the more of the research guy in this whole thing. He did a lot of research and talked to a lot of people, and then the idea was that to be kind of look like we got these ideas from newspaper stories, and that's how it started too. That some silly incident or a strange incident, and especially something you don't see, is what you're absorbing from newspapers, and that's something we didn't show in the city also. So we keep going back to that. That's when we decided that all these weird stories made sense as a film. So Suman did a lot of research.
And geopolitics is a specialty, so to speak. So he's like, all the stuff about Balochistan and all the various international political connections. A lot of that is his forte.
And I keep going back to my uncle. As I was growing up, I have this little story that my uncle was a CID officer, All right, I didn't know about what it meant. I was in school, like primary school, and so. But he used to play games with us, like when we used to go in train and stuff. He used to say, "Don't look, don't turn around. How many people are behind you?" And be like, "What? This is so cool." And then somebody talks to him and says, "What do you do?" And he makes up this bizarre shit for his job. I'm like, "Uncle, you don't do that. When did you start doing that?" And he said, like, "No, that's what CID people do. They never give the real thing." So I don't even know if he remembers these things, but those remain for a while. So I think the bits of it went back to childhood memories.
So this is the second question from Sintel. He goes, Manoj Bajpayee was an absolute joy to watch. I would assume that type of talent comes with its share of wonder and challenges. How were you able to prepare him for a character that has to convey so many different types of emotions, motivations, and physical exertion?
I didn't think we needed to prepare him much. Once he knew what the character was, he did the rest of it. We didn't really, I don't take credit in shaping him to do stuff, and the only thing we did was that we kind of realized that he never did comedy before. Really.
Like a straight-faced comedy. If you come to think about it, he's so good at it, and you're surprised.
He's
how
always
come
been
he's done it, right?
very dramatic, serious actor, and I don't think he's even done the slapstick kind or even the straight-faced kind. Any humor really. We knew there was a lot of humor in this, and it had to be done with a straight face. So it just took a bit of tuning with together to just nail it. And lately, it's almost like one stare is all that's happening most of the time. He just looks and it's so funny.
Yeah, it's just like right now you put a gun in his hand and he's running around with it, and he's still looking like very watchable, very funny. It's
hard to do that. It's hard to for that kind of character to actually have humor and be so serious, because we're dealing with extremely serious issues.
I think he also knew that somewhere. That's why, it took him all of 20 minutes to listen to the character, and he knew that I'm gonna nail this. I think he knew that. Is
there any talent, like any actors or actresses that you've been nervous to work with just because you're in such awe of their history, of their film, of their work, of their body of work?
I think I would be with Amitabh Bachchan. I would be like, even things like say that, "Oh, you're gonna direct Amitabh Bachchan." That sounds pretty rude. So
you just let him come in and do him. And
yeah.
How are you supposed to direct him? Do you actually tell him to do something, or just watch him do it and let him go?
But most of the people that we like, or we're something excited to work with, because I think the other actors that are more approachable, I guess, or not so lordship material, or more approachable superstars, for them it'd be like, we'd love to work with them, because I know they can bring in a lot of things that the way we know acting, because we did Flavors and we were doing with half of them were amateurs, first timers, and the only timers also in a way, is that they would act as much as we could act, and we're not good actors. So it's really, if I can do this scene, so you write in such a way that I can do this scene and he can do it. So now, as we experience more and more brilliant actors like Rajkumar Rao was in Stree, and all these guys, even Abhishek and Apar Shakti, all these people we're discovering over time, everybody's bringing so much more flavor to the films, like Kunal Khemu, anybody, they just, so now we know that we just have to write anything. We don't have to restrict to what we know, what we can act.
Sintel's last question is, The Family Man has some of the best camera work I've seen in cinema. Speaking as a viewer, you completely over-delivered. What was the most difficult scene to shoot and why?
The most exciting scene is the one long take.
There's a couple of those one long take scenes which a lot of preparation and effort and everything went into it. I don't remember us putting so much effort into shooting anything before this.
Yeah, it wasn't difficult, but it was challenging and exciting. The whole team wakes up. The whole team is up bright at 3 a.m. in the morning, still bright because it's an exciting take going on. The tough ones would be, even the kids over-delivered. I mean, we didn't have to do much. They were so good. So we were like...
Maybe that husband-wife argument scene, like in Family Man 1, I think, after towards the end of episode 4, there is one scene where Shrikant and Suchi have this long argument that doesn't stop. Like, you think it's going to stop, but it keeps coming back. It was like a little bit of like a very long, flowy scene. We had written it. It was like some 6 pages when we wrote it. And we wondered how long it's going to turn out on screen. It pretty much turned out to be that long on screen as well. And it still holds very well. Yeah, that's a very difficult scene to direct because, you're also kind of waiting to see how it's going to turn out. Rather than knowing up front that it's going to be great, You kind of wait to see how it turns out, and it turned out really well because the performers, they also were so into it. But I think at some point it doesn't feel like they're even acting.
The last question I wrote down is, I would imagine that being a directing duo probably makes you stronger than solo directors when dealing with big issues that can't be avoided. When you encounter a conflict with talent that doesn't seem to understand your vision or is just difficult, what's your process for resolution? Because there's 2 of you. Usually it's just one guy trying to make people understand what he sees, right?
So we strategize.
I guess we have to take turns. Okay, you go for it. Okay, he's not understanding you. You step aside. Let me explain.
No, we do strategize. Saying this guy is just not listening to us. We're not gonna get this shot, or we're not gonna get this thing that we want. So what do? So the good thing is having a partner at the best time is that time, the crisis time, because now you're thinking, what are the hacks? What can we do to get this? And sometimes, you do such stupid things like shoot it from the back and an extra shot and create magic in the edit later. So, but there are very few of those lately. But in general, that's a strategy, a lot of logic, and how do we salvage this scene? We are screwed. At the end of the day, we didn't get anything, and now we have like half hour left. What do we do? So far we haven't really failed at a challenge. That's because
I think that also comes with us being writer-directors. So, than a pure director, I think as you're directing a scene, you realize you're running out of time. What do? So we instantly start mentally rewriting the scene, saying, okay, this is what happens. You don't even rewrite the scene. You pretty much rewrite it there in the shot and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. And
we've taken out entire scenes and still made sense. And sometimes it's so funny that you're standing in front of audience in a Q&A, end of a film, and saying, that shot that you guys did was a brilliant shot when she's looking at the sky and her hair is fluttering, and it reminds me of something. I say, really? Okay, I'll take it.
This is problem solving. That's what it is. I wanted to do something fun because you guys work together really closely. I'm guessing you know each other pretty well. Yeah, you're like besties. Anyway, rapid fire. So the idea is I'm going to ask each one of you guys a question. So say I ask Raj a question, but it's going to be about DK and you have to answer for him. So we'll see how well you guys know each other. We'll start with Raj. How long would DK survive in a zombie apocalypse?
DK would, I think, question the logic of it. And say,
well, would that help him survive or would he just die right away?
I think he would question the creation of the zombie and say, this is just not possible, that you can't be possibly walking towards me and your brain dead. You're just not a human being. How are your joints working? How is your whole mechanics working? So I think he'll get out of the illusion of a zombie apocalypse.
Okay. All right. DK, would Raj rather date a stupid person or an ugly person?
I would say he would date a stupid person.
Really?
I don't know.
I don't think I can survive stupidity.
Yeah, fair enough. But I don't think you'll date an ugly person either. So I don't know.
I would see the beauty inside.
Right, that's okay. That's what he likes to think, right? Yeah.
All right. What is something that DK looks really stupid doing?
What do I look stupid doing? I don't know. I talk to myself.
Oh, he looks a little strange when playing cricket.
Playing cricket?
Okay. So random. Okay, and then finally, DK, what is Raj's most annoying habit?
I'm sure he'll get that right.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to get that right. It's like, but I'm thinking which one to pick though. There's a lot of those.
Oh, there's many?
Oh my gosh.
He's too fickle-minded. He keeps changing his mind. It's like let's do this. And I'll be like, that's not a good idea. I'm like, no, it's like, no, this is a great idea. Let's do it. I'm like, finally come on saying, okay, fine, let's do it. And then he starts backtracking, saying, but you know what? Let's not do it because I'm like, I just spent 1 hour where you convinced me it's a good idea. Now you're going back to convincing me it's not a bad idea. So that happens a lot, by the way.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to ask you guys, or wrap this up, is how do you guys feel about reaction videos in general?
To tell you the truth, I think yours was the first video we've seen. We had seen a couple
Actually,
of
we
films.
saw his video reaction for a
couple of films
for the
ago.
trailers of our films before.
Like the Go Go Gone trailer reaction was the first time we saw it. And somebody said, oh my god, you have to see this guy who's reacting. And I'm like, really? Does he understand Hindi? Who is this guy? And then what is and it was very good. And it wasn't just a reaction video. I did not even know there was a genre of reaction videos. Yeah. It was the analysis that was spot on.
Yeah, actually, speaking of Family Man, I think, more than we were watching you guys watch it, and then like there was a 10-minute cut down version where you kind of start talking about it, right? And it tells us a lot about what people, like at least you know, one section of the audience, right? It's taking away from it. And instead of you saying, you know what, I thought he would do that, but he didn't do that. And do you like it or do you not like it? You know, stuff like that. So I think it's very insightful. It's like getting it was in-depth critical review of the film you just made.
What was funny is that in the Family Man series that you guys did, somebody told us when you were already in fourth episode that watch this. And so it became like a little live thing that we're waiting for the next episode to come to see what was going on.
Right, you guys were doing it like weekly or something, right? I mean, you're not doing
So
it
we were like, just wait, what's going to happen in 6th episode? You think he's they're reacting like this on 5 because it was you're not watching anybody. I haven't watched anybody so close watching something, right? That's the experience here.
Yeah,
More
but
than
you've done it once in a while, right? Like when a film releases, you go to a movie theater and you watch people watching the movie and reacting. So
But
there is a sense of that, but they don't actually talk to you and tell you like in depth what they thought about it, which is what you guys were doing now.
And also what was good for us was that we were writing Family Man season 2, right? We were almost done with it. And Suman especially and I used to have long chats and about various things. And one of the things that made us take a look back at what we did or what we tried to achieve and what we achieved in the season, it was a refresher course as to that's the theme of that episode or that's what we tried to do. So next time, so we took away quite a few things in this, I think. That's why we were quite hooked onto it.
I mean, it might even have somewhere shaped a few things in season 2, if I may be honest.
Oh my God!
Oh!
Oh!
We always take people's reactions or reviews or feedback very seriously, especially when they're making logical sense and there was a certain thought behind it, not just hey I love it, oh it's bullshit, whatever. Beyond that, if somebody is constructing a paragraph on it, I would love to listen to it and understand and make learn from it.
That's so cool. That makes me so happy to hear, and I can't wait to watch season 2. When is season 2 coming out?
We're aiming to come in the next few months, like in anywhere from 3 to 4 months. We should be coming out. We're pretty close.
We're pretty close, but we'll leave
the
we'll leave the date announcement to Amazon. But
I think on the I think there's a video coming out in a couple of days, and we're everything right there. We're just gonna go there after this and look at the next episode.
I'm so excited.
Amazing.
I'm so excited. You guys, thanks so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to have a talk with us. Whenever we come back to Mumbai, we'd love to hang with you guys. So
absolutely,
thank you so much.
Do you guys come to Mumbai at all, or have you come to Mumbai before?
We've come to Mumbai. In fact, while we were in India, one of the vlogs we did is called Go Goa Here.
Yeah.
Off of Go Goa Gone.
Yeah.
It's not related. It's just silly. Like I love Go Go Gone, so I just used the title.
Okay.
So it's silly.
So a couple of quick questions about you. How did you start this?